It's all right.
Okay, welcome to Great Talk episode 27. We're going to review week 9 of the Champions LCK, and then look forward to the games week 10. So, just regular guests here, me, Sam, and Peter. So we can just jump right into the games.
I did send out an invitation to Joe Biden. He said he was going to come on, and then like last minute there was some government thing that happened. I don't know, it's Secret Service, you know how it is. And he said he was really sorry, he had to cancel the show. I did then try and get King Salam from Saudi Arabia to come on as like a last minute guest, but he was a bit pissed that I didn't invite him in the first place. Said death to the West and called me a motherfucker. So basically, like that's why I even got a guest this week. Because I shot for Joe Biden, didn't quite work out. And then King Salam was like really wanted to come on, but then was like a bit pissed he didn't get asked straight away to come on. Prima donnas in esports. That's what it's fucking full of.
Prima donnas?
Yeah, it's fucking full of people like two up their own arse, like King Salam. Fuck you, mate. Sort out your human rights policy. Ugh.
I would love to know if you're alluding to other players in the league, but
No, I'm not. I'm literally
there are
not.
so many prima donnas in the league that
I'm literally not even like alluding to players right now. I'm actually just making a statement about Saudi Arabia human rights policy. Because I know King Salam watches the show because he asked me if he could come on. So I'm changing the world here. Changing the world.
Fine.
you're lucky you're not in America. Can't say those kind of things about our allies in the East.
Allies.
Just because they have oil.
Hey, it's a very important commodity. So,
Should it?
jumping off of politics and going into actual day one. So we had Longzhu versus Kongdu. The long-awaited... Oh, wait, this wasn't very long-awaited. The rematch of Crash and Crush. Of can you get more confusing than Eve and Lee playing Lee and Eve?
Yeah.
So, 2-0, Longzhu. Not really anything out of the ordinary. Main thing I noted was, Flame played really well in both games. But he was playing against Hippo, so
I'm not
Yeah.
sure if
kind of hard to judge that.
I'm
And
not
then-
sure if he did play that well. You see, I don't know what it is. Like when I watch Flame, I'm not sure if like the bias just sets in and like because I don't think he's that good. I never thought he was that good of a player. Like I think I kind of when I watch him, I want to see him make more mistakes. But I actually don't think he does play that well. Like he plays a lot of Gangplank top, like a fucking shit ton of Gangplank top.
That's true.
The other champion he plays really is Poppy. What else does he play other than those two champions?
Shyvana?
He doesn't like. I think he's only.
No, I
Like
think this season, yeah, he pretty much only played those two champions.
Let's check and see. I think you're right. Yeah. Trundle, one Fiora, one Rise, one Tom Kench, one Lissandra. So outside of Poppy and Gangplank, he does not have a second play on another champion.
And like, I'll just make this clear. Like, I don't think Gangplank is a good pick. I do think it's better in the top lane than it is in the mid lane. But like, and also he's like 1-3 on Poppy or something. So basically, his wins come from picking Gangplank, sitting into late game, and scaling. That's what he's done his entire fucking career.
He actually wins lane a lot with gameplay. Yeah, I have to.
Yeah, but he wins lane against dog shit top laners.
The reason why I said I think
Someday
he looked better was that comparative, not to his previous part of his career, comparative to the games we've seen of him previously this year, I think he looked improved comparatively. If we're looking at him in expression, and trying to compare the two, I think Flame is looking to be like become his curve is going up as expressions seems to be coming down.
I mean, I'll agree with that, but like, I still think the main issue of Longzhu is their top lane pool, and I still think like I mean, I would say Flame is worse than Trace right now. I would say that like Cuvée plays a more kind of like sort of coherent and like logical way of playing League of Legends. I don't know if Cuvée is a better player, but Cuvée is stylistically better for his team than Flame is for his team. Like when I watch Longzhu, it's still the same old story. There's like 4 players trying to carry every game. Like that can't always work. You know what I mean? So
yeah, Longzhu doesn't have the team.
Like I will say that Flame looked better against Hippo than he does against like he has in a little while, but I still don't think like
Hippo.
yeah, like I mean, A, it's against Hippo, and B, like people are like, oh, Flame, the king of top laning career, is back. Like he's, his X1 solo queue or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like I don't think he is that good, and I still think the top lane is probably the biggest weakness for Longzhu. I would say it's consistently their weakest position relative to other.
Well, they had some issues with their bottom lane versus KT.
Yeah, but now they've got Fury. I don't think that's so much of an issue.
True. They
I
were
think if you're
using,
looking
that
at
was a Captain
all-
Jack Zeus lane. That's true.
all the 10 players they have, I would say top lane is still probably the weakest of
Yes.
the other positions.
Yes.
Which is true.
That is true.
I don't know. It seemed when it came to team fights, I was a bit impressed by some of his play, specifically on Poppy. He had some really good team fights on the Poppy, but his Gangplank, it's very hard to judge Gangplanks because if you get a crit, you look like a god. If you don't get a crit, you don't
I mean,
look like they wasted farm on you.
I think we saw one definitely good Gangplank in team fights this week. That was some days. Like he had some outstanding plays in team fights with barrels and chaining up, knowing what to what to do with his abilities. Definitely when he picked off, was it Coco? I think. Yeah, when he picked off Coco, he auto attacked the barrel and kept his Q to hit Coco, and that got him the kill instead of queuing the barrel just to try and kill him in that way. So knowing what abilities to use in the situation. So, I mean, we see good Gangplank. Yeah, for Flame, when he wins with Gangplank, it's either he wins lane and then just the game snowballs, or just he gets a farm up and then he does some damage in the fights, but it's not necessarily him carrying. Yeah, it's hard to judge Flame. I do think he is steadily improving, but yeah, his champion pool right now is not really big. But
No,
we have that a lot with their like the middle of the pack top laners right now. They are good on some champions, but they don't seem to have a big pool like what Trace does or someday. Well, yeah, someday as well, or Smap in this case, where they have a way bigger pool they can use.
But my other issue with Flame as well is that, like, he's still got that mentality of I want to carry every game. So he's never going to play Rammus. He's never going to play like Nautilus, or he's never going to play like even Malphite or something like that. Like, so I just think he's just a flawed player. Like, you know what I mean?
I'd be very interested to see him actually see his play if he's playing a tank.
I mean,
does he actually adjust his style to it, or is he still just Flame on a champion that really can't carry as well?
Yeah,
I think that
can't actually carry.
I think that is more the decision of Longzhu, because they don't seem to just play with actual tanky top laners except OP top lane anyway, even if it's Flame or expression.
But I will always be skeptical of any player who relies on just or constantly goes for the late game scaler every single game. Like that's just personally, that's just something I have a bias against. So like previously it's been Rise. I'm always skeptical of any player who immediately jumps on the Rise bandwagon every time it's open. And in the same situation, for me, a good player should be looking to win lane, win game, not lose lane, scale up, win game. Now that's just a stylistic, personal thing, but you know, it's just how I think about Flame.
Flame doesn't actually lose lane with Gangplank, which is pretty impressive.
But I don't know. I still, if you asked me, like, if you look at I think John's right when he says that if you looked over the 10 roles on Longzhu, I think top lane is with the weak there's no sort of like mid lane it's the lineup's pretty stacked, jungle is pretty stacked, and the AD carry and support there's a clear front runner. It's neither stacked nor is there a clear front runner. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
Not just that, but you also have it's looking forward to the other games they played this past week. But the games versus KT, you could see a kind of an issue structurally. We're going to talk about with CJ. CJ seemed to like tried a week where they played around BDD. It didn't really work that well, and they kind of went back to playing around Kramer.
CJ had a great week.
Longzhu seems to have very weird where they really don't pick a style and try and play with it, which is the issue of constantly swapping out players. Is they seem to kind of just try and play OPs and then just hopefully win with them. There's no actual style like, okay, we're going to put more of our farm onto player X, where you can clearly see like Kramer gets all of the farm.
Yeah.
And it's very weird to see that the play style. It's very hard to judge the individual players even outside of their kind of improvement within playing. Oh, they're getting better at being a dominant force. Is that there's no real thematic playing with them. They just kind of go game to game and hope they win.
You can see that in Big Ben as well. Other than top lane, you actually have no idea what they're gonna pick. They can just randomly one day just decide to just pick something completely random that they want to play or that they feel is strong, but like it has nothing to do with a comp or like a play style they have. Just
The only other observation I had from this was Crush played pretty well early, but his Kindred ults were pretty fucking terrible to the point where he didn't use them sometimes, or it would be way too early, or he'd try and flash and use it and it wouldn't work. Like his use of the ults were not optimal, but his use of the early game playing was, I would say, really good.
Yeah, I would say that for me the shining light of Kongdu is still Edge. I still think Edge is quite a promising mid laner. He still puts some good numbers. He seems to make good plays and stuff like that. I think Crush could be good. He would just need like a lot of development as a player. And I think that Guga is pretty good, but I'm not sure how good Guga can become as a support player. I'm just a bit skeptical about his ability to long-term perform in the support role. So and then Sol and Hippo, I'm like even less sold on, especially in the case of Hippo. So I would say that Edge is really the player to watch, and really the player next time there's a mid lane spot open on either a foreign team or on a Korean team, I would say that he's the one who should be getting the big money cash offer to try and get him out.
I think he probably has a better chance foreign, because
I don't think Korean
within OGN we have probably 12 mid laners that could play, including him.
And the mid lane in Korea is really, really stacked as well. So he's probably better. But the next time some foreign team is looking for a new mid laner that's not shit, maybe they should cough cough dignitas. Maybe they should consider Edge. Is all I'm going to say.
Yep. Anything else to say about this series?
No, I mean it was clear cut actually.
It was all right to see the Jin, but it didn't do anything. So
it really did. It was
it was such a knee-jerk week for Jin picks overall. They watch IEN, they see Reckless do well with Jin, and then everyone's like, "Oh, I better pick Jin then."
I totally forgot. Because I mean, what did you guys think of Zeus? Because when I first watched the series, I didn't realize it wasn't pure. Until I looked at the scoreboards of it and said, "Oh, that was Zeus," and I was like,
"Well, I saw the end game."
I guess that's kind of a compliment, kind of a negative. I'm a bit, because our issue with pure is that he's good. There's nothing that really jumps out and says, "Oh my God, this guy's great," and there's nothing that really jumps out and says, "Wow, he is Claj or whatever you call a Fnatic bot support bad." Cly. We saw at IEM. He has none of those horrendous a bit things, and I didn't see anything super spectacular out of him.
I mean,
and I didn't see anything that was super wow, that was really terrible.
No,
but you got to remember the champion he played. He did play Trundle,
and then Nautilus, so he just had to kind of get in the way both times.
I mean, I think the KT series showed it more that he was not really in the KT series. When he played versus KT in game 1, he really didn't look good. So I think when you have to put him against more better teams, it's you see Zeus not performing that well. The moment that Fury and Pure came in, the bot lane was not the issue anymore for Longzhu. Zeus could look serviceable versus Kongdu, but it's still Kongdu, which is one of the 2 worst teams in the league. So it's nice trying them, but trying him
may be the worst team in the league, as we've seen. And the other team played pretty well actually this week. When we get to them. So anything else with Longzhu Kongdu?
Not really, no.
Okay. We can move on to Jin Air KT, which was
holy shit, those drafts from KT. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Yeah.
I did tweet out after the series. I was like, we live in a world where Jin Air are the second best team in the world. What a time to be alive!
I mean,
Jin Air are legitimately a boss team.
I've been thinking it for a couple of weeks, and definitely after last week, but this week it's just like.
I thought the same, but I haven't wanted to believe it. I've been like, no, it can't be true. It can't be true.
They are
Like,
now.
like Jin Air being a great team is like, if I'm at the club and like, you know, this stunning girl, I'm talking like she's like 5'11", like amazing looking, like she hits on me, and I'm like, this has got to be a practical joke. This has got to be a joke. This has got to be a joke. Obviously, this is an analogy because in real life I'm a baller, but like. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's like, this has got to be a joke. This has got to be a joke. This has got to be a joke. And then it's not until, like, she's in your bed slamming you that you're like, this is real life. Like, what? This is amazing. Fucking, that Jin Air roster as well had zero hype coming into this season. Nobody thought that Jin Air roster was going to do good. I saw people placing it below Afreeca Free,
Remember,
SBENU. Like, people were like, oh, yeah, like, it was like Jin Air and CJ. People were like, oh, yeah, those elite Kesper teams are done. Fuck that. Jin Air are fucking rocking everyone right now.
This was the team that, outside of Trace, was the team that lost at IEM.
Yeah, versus CLG and stuff. So that's...
Like, I was like, what is this world? Like, Kuzan as well is like the most improved player, I would say, if you look at like, because he's become such an elite level mid laner. Like, he makes so many good plays nowadays. Like, his champion pool is good. Like, his laning phase is good. Like, I don't know where Kuzan came from, but he's a fucking boss.
Well, he was there for
Oh yeah. I mean, he has been on the team for about a year now, but like, it's like they never lost GBM. Like, they don't even give a fuck about GBM anymore. Kuzan's more aggressive. Like,
I mean,
he's balling.
Last year I also always made a comparison that Kuzan was just like a similar GBM, just worse at that time. But right now he's really.
You can definitely say he has improved from his games last year.
Yeah, of course.
Where I was much preferred, because the issue I had last year was they had Captain Jack still. And they also had.
They played Jack pretty much all the time.
And they
played Chaser though most of the time.
They were playing the younger players together. They'd swap both of them in, and it was just like you can't. It was very weird when they were swapping players in and out. But Kuzan looked good by himself, but he always seemed to play at the same time with I believe it was with Pilot, and they didn't really have. It looked like they just were playing, and they didn't really understand the map.
I mean, now that was still the issue. Now
they're really like now they're it's insane.
But they don't even have the issue that it takes them 50 minutes to close out a game as well. They were winning games in like 30 minutes now. Like, what is this?
It's very
versus
ungeneric.
KT, so it's not even like...
Yeah,
I think that may have had a bit to do with KT and their play.
Yeah, that's some shit draft.
Right. I mean, KT's drafts were abysmal. Yeah, absolutely abysmal. Not going to make any excuses, but you can't give credit where credit's not due.
Oh no,
they still the third best team in Korea. Probably.
They did very well in the series.
So I think Jin is clear cut right now, the second best team. I mean, they won that series with two completely different comps. So it's not even like they're using the same strategy. They have multiple strategies. They know how to play with a lot of different picks, and they have good players in almost all of their roles, like solid players that can win. And
it was just very weird to see Lulu played twice,
like,
and then. What the fuck is this Nautilus mid garbage?
And Winged as well. Like, he's another player that's just improved so much as well. Like, originally we thought Winged was like, why are they playing Winged? Like, he's shit. Like, I was saying, they need to find another jungler. Like, blah blah blah. Winged is a boss now. Like, it's amazing. I'm blown away every time I watch this Jin Air team because I think how bad they used to be, how bad some of these players used to be, and how much they've all turned around like their own individual career. It is like. It's almost like it's almost like hats off to the Jin Air coaches that they've managed to achieve this with this lineup. You know what I mean?
Like, and Trace, I just want to
exactly. Like
Trace, because I think a lot of it was to do his place on when he returned to the team. That's when he made the tournament.
Jin Air was my MVP of round 1 of the round robin. So like I love Trace right now, which is weird because I've talked so much shit about Trace on this show before.
Oh yeah.
So. Like, yeah, it is. I love doing well.
Very weird to see Trace kind of.
Trace is completely different than he was last.
Yeah, play like it was spring again last year.
He's playing better than it was
even
last
better
year.
than it was because
this is the peak of Trace's career at a point where we all thought he should retire. Like, when does that ever happen? Like, this player should retire. Actually, he's the best player he's ever been. What? When did that happen? Like,
true.
Very rarely. I mean, like I was saying, he's playing like it's spring of last year, but he has a lot more depth at champion. He has a lot more versatility with the champions he's playing. It's just it's very very nice to see him
What I
come
like,
back and play the way he is.
what I like about Trace as well is he can play the meta picks, but he can also play his like weird off-ball picks as well. Like he's still got that up his sleeve. You know, he's still got like 5 Trace specials hiding under his sleeve at any one moment. He's just gonna bang out. So like, yeah, like I'm consistently amazed when I watch this Jin Air lineup play. When I think of like how bad, yeah, this team has been historically. How like this team has always been like on the outside looking in, and now they are the inside. Like the party is Jin Air. Like. They're the only team this week to go 2-0. What's that all about?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, the second set they got was Kongdu, so.
But I mean, like, how many series have Jin Air lost this lost so far? 1 second, let me look.
In the second round, not a single one yet, but
no, they haven't lost a single one so far. I mean, they're scheduled to play Rox. The last time they played
lost
they
3.
got hammered, but they've only lost 3. They lost once to Rox, once to Samsung,
And once to Longzhu.
once to Longzhu. Like,
yeah, I don't think they would lose to Longzhu right now, though.
no, exactly. Like, that's the matchup I want to see again. So
Wasn't that really early too? Wasn't that like week 1 or 2? Yeah, it was
was
week
that
1. It was
was
first
one-
game.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
week 1.
Exactly. And Jin Air was playing with So1 at that point.
Yeah.
It was week.
They
One
brought in Trace in game 2, and he played Lulu and bought Majias, but it didn't really work out, evidently. So yeah,
But he bought the Majias at such a weird timing.
So now that we've showered Jin Air with praise, what the fuck up was KT's like? Do you guys want to go into the pick ban or
Yeah.
like what was this game 2 fucking setup? This was like
I mean, yeah, the game 1
I
set
don't
was just
understand what he's
destroyed by
trying to do.
Ramus, and then they had to like. But they didn't actually have the last pick, the fucking Lulu, but they were like, yeah, shit, we have to do something, and then they picked Lulu top lane, even though they could have picked an actual AP top laner at. Oh, actually, no, this one was banned, so at that point you don't have much choice then. Well, yeah.
I don't know why they shouldn't go Lulu mid with Nautilus top.
Yeah, I mean, that's. Yeah,
well,
game 2.
if you look at the Jin Air draft in game 1, they kind of baited Jin Air. They kind of baited KT in the draft phase because like Jin Air banned out Fiora and Nautilus. KT banned out Lissandra, Poppy, and Gangplank. There's 5 top lane bans straight off the bat, and then they all kind of they avoid picking an actual top laner for as long as possible. I mean, KT lock in the Graves, and then they lock in the Varus. They lock in Callista, Graves, Varus, and like Jin Air like respond with an Ash pick because like there's not many AD carries left on the board, and then it's like Jin Air are like haha Ramus, and then like KT like what the fuck do we do against that? Like we're out of options now.
They
Like
could
it's
have
like
screwed
Malphite.
themselves by banning all those top things.
Yeah, like they really they shot themselves in the foot, and then KT and then Jin Air stamped on the foot basically. Like
Has Someday played Trundle yet?
Don't know. It wouldn't have worked it. Well, it could have.
That would have been a good match because Ramus, you just steal all his stats.
Yeah, but
He hasn't played Trundle yet this year.
But even,
Ramus has a lot of stats. You can't just steal them all.
no, but you steal a lot.
That's true,
No,
but I mean,
Ramus. I mean, Trundle works with Ramus. We have seen that already. But
Yeah.
But I think that in general, it still would have been a pretty. I think.
oh no, it
would
wouldn't have been optimal. It would have been pretty bad. But I think Lulu at that point, it's not.
Oh no, it
not
was
good.
like it wouldn't help whatsoever.
I don't think she can be picked anywhere outside of mid, and she needs to have a
just-
specific comp build around her for
I
mid
just-
to be able to ult people.
I just think KT were just so focused on we need to have an AP threat on our team. We need to get some kind of mixed
Yeah,
damage.
and they had 3 of the characters like enough targets to shield and stuff. So
Yeah, so I just think they were just so focused on we need to have something AP. That's why they didn't pick the Trundle, basically.
but I
Still
think
really weird.
they were like, yeah, I mean a bit caught off guard when the Ramus came out. Like, yeah, how are we ever going to kill that?
Yeah, like I think it did. Like you got to remember, they have only got like 40 seconds to fucking pick a champion as well. It's not like they've got an hour to go away and think about it. Like
No, but if you pick the triple AD to begin with, then you kind of have to. I mean, you also have to put him in top lane because you can't put Varus top. So you had to pick a AP top laner, and you should already have something in your mind other than let's pick Lulu.
But then Lulu is overvalued in career as well, so I think.
A bit too much, yes, for sure.
And then in the second game, like Jin Air ban out like Nidalee, Corki, and Varus, and KT ban out like Lissandra, Poppy, Callista, and then so Jin Air then KT rushed the Nautilus pick. They're like, oh, we're not getting caught this time with our pants down. So then Jin Air just go, all right, Gangplank Sivir, like, all right. And then KT just picked Draven randomly. I mean, it was nice to see Arrow on Draven, but he didn't do anything. Like I was like, this is why Draven doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah, this is why every time Arrow picks Draven 2 years they just lose.
Yeah. I think Arrow wants that Draven pick to work so badly because when it worked, it was really great, and like we all had like a higher opinion of Arrow than we've got now.
But it's like worse than ever. Like
It's like he's a Draven main, but obviously it's not the way the professional League of Legends works. So yeah,
Nope.
he didn't even go.
He did not get to cash in on fat stacks of money.
no, need that money. No, you don't.
But then the comp, like, which is
Comp would look terrible, not only just the Draven pick, but everything else.
everything on top of it was just such a mess. And then Jin Air
Anything
just
else
outplayed
in the
him.
series?
No, it was just
It was a bit disappointing because it should have been a lot more enjoyable and less one-sided than it was. But yeah, some people were like, "Oh, you can't call Jin Air the second best team in the world. Like, you haven't seen him play against all foreign competition." I was like, "I've seen SKT play against
exactly.
in a foreign competition for me to know that like Jin Air would fucking stomp anyone." Like, you think SK? I remember like Double F was talking to like a post-game interview where he's like, "Oh yeah, SKT were like a brick wall." I was like, "Well, imagine how it would if you played an actually good team in Korea. Like, you think SKT are a brick wall? Jin Air are a fucking metal fortress with guns. Like." They're gonna fucking shoot your face off. Like, they're not gonna do that cute thing that SKT do as well, where they let you sit around for 20 minutes, farm up, and then start on you. They're just gonna hammer you right from the word go. Like, one of the best goal differences at 15 minutes. Like, SKT are one of the worst. Like, it's not.
Yeah, I mean SKT. Like we said with the IEM episode, there wasn't anything that changed from watching them play in Korea versus watching them play here. They tried to farm up to a certain point, and then as soon as they went, they said go, and they either win or lose.
Yeah, but they just won every game. And they still played Lulu Ezreal, even though it's not a good comp. Like, they still played the shit out of it and won with it. So they went home like, oh yeah, everything he was doing was fine before. No reason to change anything. Got this game on lock. Oh wait, hold on a second. So, yeah, well, it was disappointing because I wanted Jin Air. I wanted it to be a closer series. So thanks, KT coaches, for dropping the ball. But props to Jin Air.
Yeah.
Balling team, I would say.
They definitely have shown up so far. It'll be very interesting because they don't play Longzhu until the last game of the 13th week, so
Yeah.
won't get to see that matchup for quite a while. But now we move on to, I would say, probably one of the most hilarious matches of the week, considering what later would follow from the team that got 2-0'd. So we have CJ versus Samsung.
I mean,
And we have two games where Ambition again, pretty Ambition.
Yeah.
Pretty much Ambition.
So credit where credit's due. CJ's team fighting, bang on. Like,
oh yeah, they're
it's so good.
good
So
at team fighting.
CJ right now are like what people said Chao Gu were last year, in the sense that like they play like a sort of composed, reserved early game, or take a few hits, take a few L's, and then team fight the shit out of you until they close out. The difference is like CJ, like they don't just they have an early game. It's just a reserved, composed early game rather than like a sort of early game. So
the issue their early game too is bubbling is the greatest.
Yeah.
So his Kalista ults were very good this set.
It's Kindred ult.
Kindred, sorry. I mix those up
Yeah.
literally every single time I say it.
I mean, we get bubbling a lot of shit on the show. Like, he's a good team fighter. Like, because CJ are a good team fighting team. Like, his issue is like he's terrible at jungle pathing. He doesn't really know when to gank. Like, you know, it's not like, but he is pretty good in a team fight. Like, he knows what his job is in a team fight, and he does that well. So in that aspect,
his choices early game to mid game are pretty poor. But when he comes to team fighting, he
just switches.
He has enough to help out the team and not be a big issue.
Yeah.
Which,
and I would have no problem calling Mad Life and Kramer the best bot lane in Korea right now.
Over.
I'll tell you,
Gorilla.
I will tell you they are the most gold earning bot lane in Korea. I will agree with you on that. Best.
That's hard. Like
every game if they don't carry, the team loses.
But that's because the team puts all their money into them to win. It's
I
the
wouldn't
way
say
they
it makes
play.
them- yeah,
They're
I
a
wouldn't say
very
it makes them the
blood-centric
best.
team.
It does make them the most important bot lane for their team. I will
Okay.
give you that too.
Okay, that's
Is that
Yeah.
when out of all other 10
They are
teams,
very Kramer and
literally-
Meta are very good at team fighting. I will not say that, but like you could say the
They
same
are
thing about Prey and Gorilla.
hands
They know
down
how
the
to
most
team fight.
important. Like
Yeah, that's true. Okay. But yeah, like this is another thing as well. Like Kramer as a player has improved massively, especially since his
Oh my
early
God.
games in League. Like even in LCK, he was bad in his early games. Now he's great. Like
Kramer was the player who got like benched during Worlds for someone else, and then
Yeah.
he comes to Korea. Like he's like, yeah, we don't need you anymore. He goes back to Korea, gets picked up by CJ, and he's like, "It's it, boys. Time to turn on the engine."
yeah, like what now, Yoey Flash Wolves? Think you made the right decision now, do you pricks? Yeah, it's like he's not going to get like 100 CF deficit to double lift now, is he? Like he's going to fucking wreck double lift. So yeah, good on Kramer, I think.
Oh, I can
Yeah,
only see.
Racking in Korea at the moment.
Let's see what-
So we're talking about Samsung, like they're just so ambition dependent. Like they have
They're
like
super ambition.
and they're so like if ambition doesn't like go like if ambition gets caught and as a fuck like ambition fucks up their early game so often that it's like in this situation they should have been able to punish CJ Enters a lot more than they did
Oh yeah.
in the early, but they failed because ambition couldn't out jungle bubbling to the extent that you'd probably expect him to be able to. So therefore they went on. So therefore when it got to the team fights, yeah, they hung in there in the team fights. They're pretty good in team fights, as you would expect from an elite Korean team. But they're not good enough in team fights to justify like, you know, and they're so one-dimensional with where the threat comes from as well.
Yes, that
It's like
Samsung has
I
a big
believe they're
issue. With,
joking on the. Yeah, go ahead.
well, Samsung has a big issue that they don't seem to have two. Like they only seem to have like one actual good threat in their team. It's Crown. There isn't a big secondary carry, except like versus like then later in the week versus Rox. Ambition was that secondary threat. But in general, if Ambition fucks up, then they just have
It's not
Crown
Ambition fucking up. If Ambition just plays like he normally does, that's a problem.
Oh well, yeah. Then if he doesn't,
Which is why
do
we were
enough.
calling Samsung the weakest of the top 7,
which stays,
top 6.
which is still
But now I
lower.
guess you can say top 7 with CJ.
Top 7, yeah.
My issue with them is like is that Crown. If Ambition doesn't show up and like play better than he really usually shows, and Crown isn't allowed to go nuts, I don't really see where their wins come from outside of real hard grinds. Their bot lane Wraith is really good, but their AD carries are kind of like okay.
Wraith is such an underrated player though as well. Like when you consider the length of his career, like how good his mechanics are even now, kind of thing. Like and the magic he does. Like I think the fact he consistently plays with 2 AD carries as well. That's like the fucking support nightmare. Like he never gets time to properly build any synergy with either his AD carries. But like he is really good. I think like Wraith.
I know that, but both AD carries are kind of just like meh.
Oh.
Oh, we just lost Sam, I think.
Sam, your webcam.
There we are. Sorry about
Yeah, okay,
Um,
sorry.
But there is the issue too is like neither of the AD carries really have their own. Like I guess the benefit for him actually is that neither AD carry really has their own kind of like different play style.
Mm.
It pretty much seems like you just drop one in. It's like, oh, it was Core JJ playing all along. I thought it was Stitch, or you could do the opposite, and your cam's gone again.
that. No, one sec.
Did you pull it out or something?
Okay, it should be better. It should be better now.
But yeah, so
It's just
I
a
don't
wiring.
really- I don't see too much of like a difference between them, which I think could play a bit better with Wraith, but it's very surprising to see him able to really even continue lane phase with both of them seemingly randomly placed into the team.
I will say that based on the games versus CJ and based on the games that Samsung played with Rox, I do think they should focus more on Core JJ over Stitch, which is actually kind of what I thought at the start. But then I was kind of always going to be a bit biased towards Core JJ because I'd seen more of him because obviously I watched more NALCS than LMS.
Yeah, it was a bit weird because they swapped them out so often. It's hard to make a clear-cut call on one.
Yeah,
It does look
and-
Core JJ does a bit more.
yeah, and
Because I definitely think in Game 2 versus CJ, like, if Stitch would actually be better, and he would have won that game.
I do think that if I was if you was to say one factor that other than ambition that really lost in the game, it would be Stitch's inability to dish out damage. Kratos straight up ripped him apart, straight up outperformed him. You know what I mean? Position better consistently.
Definitely considering that Kramer was playing Corki, which is not team hyper carry late game. He still carry, but he still destroyed team fights.
Yeah, that's the thing about Kramer as well. Picks Corki, wrecks team fights. What's going on here? People don't even play Corki as an AD carry. You don't give a fuck. He'll do what he wants.
Yeah, he had an interesting build as well. 90% crit build.
Yeah. So yeah. I would say that if I was a real Samsung fan, I would want to see more core JJ and less Stitch. But I imagine they'll just continue switching about every other series because that's literally what they do. Is core JJ goes in for Chase, then Stitch. It's like in football or something. You'd expect one of them has got really bad fitness issues or something. Can only play one match a week. Not it's fucking video games. Of course, you can play 2 matches a week. Bizarre as anything.
They play. That's interesting.
Yeah, it seems really, really weird. But the only thing I had to say is that since BDD has come back on, the player I've been more the past 2 weeks. The player I've been more impressed with than CJ is Untara. Is BDD's come on and he's okay. He's not as great as the hype was, but the hype was a bit overblown. But Untara has been.
I would like to point out that no player ever can be as good as the hype as the
it's stupid.
The hype for BDD was much bigger than the hype for people now will act like there was a massive amount of hype around Faker. There wasn't really.
No.
They were oh yeah, there's this guy joining SKT and he's number 1 ranked on the solo queue ladder, and that was about it really. That was all we heard about him. No one said oh yeah, he's gonna wreck Ambition, or no one called him Ambition Junior or anything like that. But
they just were oh, he's this really great player from solo queue that's known for dominating.
Yeah,
and then
that was it.
He dominated.
Yeah, no. So there was more hype around BDD than there was. The problem is Faker created this prophecy now where any player that's highly rated in solo queue, people instantly want to jump on the bandwagon and be I was the one who said he was going to be great. So yeah, no player will ever have as the hype is always bigger for a new player, and then they're always compared to Faker's debut. It's the best professional debut of all time. So
yep.
It's just
everyone gets compared to Faker, which makes it more difficult. But it's not like he's bad. It's just I've been watching CJ with a finer watching them a little bit more closely, and Untara is the bigger surprise to me. Is that he is really from pretty much nowhere been playing very, very well.
Yeah, especially when he started out and he was a Maokai one trick.
He has good teleports and he can play tanks, and now it's wow, he can really play tanks and has really great teleports.
Yeah,
I have some pretty good games on Fiora as well in his back pocket. So yeah, I think that entire there's no clear weak. Well, there is a clear weak on link on CJ bubbling, but
Daydream is still there. Could maybe
the other 4 players are all pretty good across the board, and there's still a lot of room for growth with this team as well. That's the thing. There's still no obvious end in sight to how good they can become. I would think. So they're not maxed out yet.
Yeah, BD is not as good as the hype, but they put this hype better than Faker's top peak. So that's stupid to begin with. But here's the improvement they needed because Sky was a detriment to their team, but DDT is now an actual asset in team fighting and.
The main issue for BDD is still his champion pool and how he still just basically relies on Azir to win games. And
good first game.
The problem as well is that Azir is not a good mid lane pick, but for some reason now across the world people are Azir's a good mid lane pick again because BDD won some games with it. So now everyone's fucking playing it.
Yeah, he's not the only one though. He might come back. It's not horrible.
I think it's really it's super comfort for him. And he can play it, and then people are oh, he played it against his champion. Let's see if this works.
Azir's Lee Sin in mid lane, yeah. If you're really good with Azir, you can make it work probably no matter how badly the champion gets nerfed, unless it's literally does 1 damage with each of his abilities.
Even nerf Azir, the mechanics are still super annoying to deal with because he has such a long range and all of his skits. I think the main reason he fell off is just that he's a lot worse and his wave clear and stuff. So it was a lot more difficult to get ahead in lane. And
yeah, but I would say that like, so I get why BDE plays it. I just think that I just want to see him on more than Azir, basically. Like, but
I mean, it was his third match, so
yeah, he's played some Zed and some Lulu as well. So
He wasn't for champions, but he definitely still will fall back to that.
no, like it's
when
an issue.
Feels like he needs comfort again.
I mean, their Azir game was a 32-minute win, so it's not like.
no, yeah, exactly. Like, he plays well on the Azir, not questioning that at all. It's just I was wanting to see him on a bit more. That's all. But
anything else on the series? We're probably going to talk about both teams again later.
Well,
not CJ,
not
actually.
CJ, no.
Yeah, CJ.
No, CJ just
CJ.
has real good team fighting. That's keeps impressing me how well they.
yeah, the team lives and dies by their ability to team fight. Like they just every game they seem to team fight and win. Like every game they win, they seem to win through team fight. Like they kill participation across the board is like the highest in career as well. Because all they do is team fight. That's all they fucking do. They have no. They never have an ability to make a solo play because Bubbling's now zero jungle pressure, so they have to team fight to win. Like.
The only other thing I had about this was kind of funny. They're commentating on during the game was that both teams don't want like both teams have negative deficits at like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And they're both but around the time for both games, they were both kind of trying to give each other objectives so that they could fall behind, which I thought was kind of hilarious. But it goes to show both of the problems with both teams really center around jungling. And that's really where a lot of the deficits come from is simply you fall behind because either your lane gets pushed in and they have a lot more pressure that doesn't get alleviated, or the jungler simply doesn't really do anything for them.
Yeah, I would say that's fair.
So it's a bit interesting to see both of them like that and kind of Samsung fall because they couldn't out jungle Bubbling. That's ambition. Greatest jungler 2016 couldn't out jungle Bubbling.
Yeah.
According to Reddit. So now we can move on to SBENU versus Rox, which looking back at this from the Rox perspective, it makes it a bit more obvious. Not obvious, but it makes their loss a lot more non-surprising because they didn't seem to really give a shit in this series either. And they simply won because they are so much better than SBENU, even though SBENU played pretty well.
SBENU had a lot of good reactions in the game, early game, like strategically seeing in the rotations and stuff. But then SBENU just got outplayed mechanically. Like I feel like that whole series can just get summed up in SBENU just getting outplayed mechanically. Like Kuro just being a massive beast on the LeBlanc. But then in game 2, like he actually had struggled quite a lot on the Corki versus LeBlanc matchup versus Assassin, but then just the rest of his team just covered up for him, and then they just beat in as a team aspect. They won that game like super hard. Mostly like Gorilla being like doing some like insane roams with Prade and fucking that mid lane was just like what do you do against that if you're Assassin?
His Janna in game 2 was really good as well.
It
was fucking mental.
It did remind everyone that he is the greatest Janna in the history of the game, kind of thing. Like
it reminded me of the Samsung Samsung Shield, White Shield when they were playing. Najin, sorry, Najin White Shield with his like how he kind of busted out Janna and then it took over an entire tournament.
Yep.
Because like
very
it was
nice to see.
And coincidental that I watched that series just before they lost versus Samsung. I watched the VODs and I looked at it and I was like, yeah, SBENU didn't actually play too bad, but Rox just at one point around 20 minutes just started doing grouping more and just won pure out of mechanical superiority and being faster with collapsing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if SBENU played against Afreeca, Longzhu, maybe even Samsung, maybe even SKT at this point, the performance they showed was really good.
Well, no, I don't know if you can say that about Samsung. Samsung played really well in their second series, so
I don't think necessarily.
I know, but the issue, the difference. We'll get to the Samsung why they kind of were very surprising there. I mean, we already kind of mentioned Ambition
Look,
did not play Ambition style.
Ultimately, yeah, like people have been saying this entire time, like, oh, SBENU like played against this team, that maybe they're not going to get a win. They're done.
No, I mean, if they played with if they can replicate how they played against Rox, I think they have chances to get.
I don't believe that. I don't buy that.
I don't completely think that. It's just their first 20 minutes are good, but they still don't seem to have a good way to win the game.
Yeah, but everything else is so terrible. So unless they win that game in 20 minutes, which they won't do,
they just trade even very well in the early game, or even get slight leads because I think they got leads like even in the first.
I feel like their coach just gets to practice the first 20 minutes and goes right next game like,
and then they have the scrim and it's like
next game. Right, we got 20 minutes down. Surely, I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't even think they could beat Kongdu or Afreeca. So
I think they could beat Kongdu. I guess it's a bit unexpected to see them play so well, like so suddenly, but it was very nice to see them actually be able to play together, react to things properly, and actually execute strategies when it came to that point. But I can see them beating Afreeca and Kongdu.
I don't even think it's a strategy if it's in the first 20 minutes. I think that's just like the game plan, isn't it? Like surely a strategy is how you play the later stage of the game.
10 minutes, 20 minutes is a long time already.
Yeah.
The way they were able to react to things, they were actually able to be pretty good when it came to the reactions. They were able to change and
they even got some
not just fall apart.
Well, yeah, I mean they're not a Western bottom table team. They're going to be all right in that aspect. But
they have had games where they've had the opportunity to trade for objectives and they just fucking don't do it.
But I just don't think that means they're going to do it.
No.
Because
if they can,
you got to think about this. You got to think of this position. Yeah, okay. Is SBENU go into the series against Rox? They know there's no chance of them winning whatsoever, so they play without any kind of reservation, without fear. When they go into a series against Kongdu, they probably think we should win this. So then all the reservation, the fear comes in. Hence why they don't play as well against the other teams. Like it doesn't matter how good you look in your losses if you look, realistically, if all you fucking do is lose games. Like,
I mean, I'm not saying they even had a chance to win those games. I think looking at Rox, because I watched all 5 games in a row, I feel Rox played very lax this week. That they could have tried harder.
I think the Rox this loss to Samsung will be the necessary motivation to allow Rox to close out the series, close out the split and win the tournament. Because I do think they were just kind of getting a bit like, fuck it, let's just see how much we can push this kind of thing, like see how much troll picks we can get away with and whatnot. And I do think that will be the motivation. But hey, what do you do?
I don't know. It was very refreshing to see them actually play. SBENU actually play well, considering how poorly they've played since. But it's still really only 2 players in their team doing too much, and one of them has to be on Lee Sin.
Yeah. And that was the thing. Flawless lost his first ever game on Lee Sin, lost his first professional game on Lee Sin as well. So,
anything else on this? I mean, we're going to talk about Rox in quite detailed.
It was a very short series.
So we can move on to SKT versus Afreeca, and they're taking that IEM sweep into a loss against Afreeca.
A game loss.
And then, game loss, game 1, and then I watched those games and I actually watched them twice because I didn't really understand what SK did to win besides play the game. Like it seemed like the other 2 games, it was more Afreeca falling apart.
Well, they out-team fought
Afreeca win.
They out-team fought Afreeca in game 2, and then in game 3, it was a complete shit show from the side of Afreeca.
Game 2 was
SKT haven't fixed their issues. It was just show the limitations of Afreeca as a team, in the sense that they basically depend on they can come into a game with a decent strategy and but they just run out of steam so quickly. So the individual play across the board dropped lower as well. Like Ixu's Poppy Ultimates got steadily worse as it progressed. So in that aspect, Afreeca just run out of steam.
Yeah, and game 1 was just they had the top 3 players on the team played well. I mean, Snowflower also played well. I do feel Snowflower has a shitty champion pool, because why are you playing Morgana with Kalista and not Alistar, and not Alistar is open? I don't get that. Alistar is way better at that point, but
his main picks are Morgana and Thresh realistically for Snowflower.
As well,
So if you think about Snowflower's like one of those players who wants to land the big hook at all times, kind of thing. It probably was a Blitzcrank main at some point or something stupid. So, but I mean, it's a team of streamers. Like,
I mean,
I think the biggest issue with them is openly saying we want to try.
yeah, well, they didn't used to try. They used to do better. Now they try and they.
I
Well-
think that's the biggest issue is because beforehand they're like, we're just gonna go pro and see how long we can go. We're just a bunch of friends, and this is exactly what we're thinking. And everyone's like, oh, for those expectations, you guys are doing just great.
Yeah.
Like all last year, we thought they were doing great. Thought they were doing fine at exactly what they thought they were gonna be able to do.
I was very annoyed.
And now they're like, we want to win. It's like now you have expectations you're trying to put up.
To be
and
fair,
they're not gonna
To be
happen.
fair, last year I was very annoyed when Afreeca won games for that exact reason that I didn't think they should win any games at all. So I was actually very annoyed by the Afreeca Freaks wins last year.
Annoyed or not, though, you had expectations for them. Like the issue with me is I had no expectations. If they won a game, I was like, okay, I guess I have to watch a third.
Yeah.
Now they've been like, oh, we want to win, we want to do better. It's like I don't see you doing better with this team.
Yeah. I think they're another team, like, if they got relegated, I wouldn't care. Like, so the only thing that would make me laugh is that would lose the Afreeca sponsorship. That's about it. I think it's their sole value in Korea right now.
Pretty much is.
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this? I mean, SKT literally have not changed the play style.
they
Wait.
legit played the same comp, almost the same comp, 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
And the first game was like, yeah, if you get behind, you're not gonna win with this comp because it's pretty shit. If you fall behind, to come back because if Bang gets caught, you lose because you have a one-threat team. Game 2, at least they had a Fury in game 2, so like, then they could actually win team fights pretty well. And
Well, they couldn't. The other reason they couldn't come back as well was because Sanghyun was on the Cogmore, which is like a late game kind of.
yeah, but until the actual last team fight, Sang-Yoon had nothing to do with to win. Like absolutely nothing. He did nothing. Like Lero won. Lero just got them ahead
It
already.
was
Outplayed
Mickey and
Blank.
Lyra.
Yeah, and Blank had a lot of misplays on the ults and stuff, and on the ganks, and then Lero had better ganks, so they got ahead. And then Ixu had a very good 1 fighter on Dragon. And then the Sang-Yoon just had that one play at the end where he just flashed over because he was fat, and like it didn't matter anymore because they were so far ahead. But like they legit got that 10k lead and Baron without Sang-Yoon. Like, he at least he didn't feed, which was good, but he didn't actually win. I knew the result, but I hadn't seen that game yet. I was like, wait, are they just gonna win because of Kog'Maw? But no, Kog'Maw had actually nothing to do with it. So.
Afreeca do tie up SKT at exactly 3-3 throughout the like individual record. I will say that is actually the only like complete even. That is the first complete even split of the round robin as well. The 3-3 between SKT and Afreeca. Every other like head-to-head is skewed in one team's favor. Now, granted, they haven't all played every team twice yet, but that is the first time we've seen a two teams split exactly evenly.
Even the teams that have split, they've gone 3-2, 2-3, like before 4-0 or.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know,
there hasn't been an even exact 6 games between any of the teams outside of those two, which is, I have to say, absolutely hilarious.
And if you look at Afreeca's record as well, like, I mean, yeah, they played Kongdu Monsters in week 10, but then they play Samsung, KT. Okay, they played SBENU, Jin Air, Rox, Longzhu, CJ. So like, I don't know. They have
at 3 wins for, unless they can beat Kongdu. They're probably at 3 wins for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Spain as well.
I mean, the maximum they can get is like 5 and 7. I would say realistically, like SKT was their real big shot. I think of winning any more actual games. So I don't think they can beat Longzhu, even though Longzhu are less consistent. Even though Longzhu are actually lower in the table than.
I think Longzhu are better at playing their game than Afreeca is, though.
Yeah, so, but hey, they won't get relegated though, Afreeca, because they'll sit firmly in that 8th place, so they don't even have the possibility of getting relegated. I don't think.
Nope. So moving on, we have Jin Air Kongdu. What do you guys think of this set? Once again, we had Trace again playing Poppy and then playing Gangplank. So he's again been able to pretty much change his play style. He's played Rammus. He's played Gangplank. He's played kind of mini half tanks. It's very, very different. But then again, it was Kongdu.
They just destroyed Kongdu. It was really fun. It's an enjoyable series if you like Jin Air just beating up.
Yeah, there were at no point did Kongnu look like they were capable of winning this.
Yeah, I mean they
series,
went to Lulu. I mean they went to Fane in game 2, which is like, jeez.
Yeah, I do like Trace's post interview where they asked him why they picked the Vayne pick, and he was like, "Oh, it's good in Severe and blah blah blah." But I carried, so it didn't matter. Like I did like that. I did like that as a soundbite. Like, the Vayne pick was totally useless because because all that happened was Trace carried. So yeah, I mean, like I'm totally kind of run of the mill, exactly exactly what you'd expect the series to be like. It was exactly that way. You know, Kongnu didn't look good. Jin Air looked exactly like they always do.
Then again, this was 4 games of Jin Air we saw this week, and they only lasted a combined about a little over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very surprising.
Well, that's what I was saying. That's why I like Jin Air even more now. They don't even take 50. Like before, they took 50 minutes to close out a game, but they kept winning, and we were like, "How are they doing this?" Now they're just winning games straight up in like 25, 30 minutes. Like, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yep.
Very good play. Definitely the second best team now.
I still hope Violet plays a bit better. I mean, he doesn't play bad, but he doesn't carry.
No.
Ever. He's just there.
He is the weak link of that Jin Air lineup.
It can be definitely an issue, but
right now they're in luck.
Like
yeah, as long as Trace can carry, it's not a big issue. But like, how long is that?
I would say in Pilot's defense, he is very consistent at his level. So he never loses games for them either.
No. Nobody loses them. Like say they have 5 solid players, but like I want to see a bit more of Violet. Like I feel like he can be more, but he hasn't ever really shown it.
Yeah, he has had a few good Ezreal games, but who hasn't at this point? So.
But it's one of his best champions.
Yeah.
No, but I mean,
yeah, it's a bit shame too, considering we know he plays a lot more carry oriented in solo queue.
Who doesn't?
Plays the super bitch champs usually in the competitive games.
Yeah, but whatever.
So we're gonna move on to the final day, the interesting day, and you can start off with KT Longzhu. And this is just another KT, like great KT set.
KT had like game 1 was like insane. Like score was so good. Like
yeah,
it was unreal.
I will say, watching this series, I did at the end of it go, why do Longzhu ever put in the other team? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, okay, I was more like, why would they ever put in a bot lane that's not pure Fury? Like, that's the bot lane they wanted. They got that bot lane. Play that bot lane.
Like Kevin Jackson. Yeah,
like,
that bot lane made so many mistakes, and scored destroyed that bot lane on his own pretty much.
Game 2 was pretty close between Longzhu and KT, and it really came down to Coco misusing his ultimate on Lissandra.
No. It came down just they let Sunlight farm way too much. Like it didn't even matter if Coco used his ult better. Sunlight was just so much stronger. Like even if he had ulted himself, I don't even think they would have won that game at all.
No, but they would have definitely stood a better chance of winning it than they did.
Yes, he should not. First of all, he should not try and 1v1 someday when he's so fast.
Yeah,
because he has 6 offensive items and a maul. Like you're not beating that as Lissandra.
No. So yeah, I mean, I think Longzhu looked much better in game 2 than they did in game 1. And I just don't understand why they would ever play their other bot lane. If they want to mess around with like Frozen and Crash over Chaser and Coco, I don't agree with it, but I can understand it. I don't get why they would play Zeus and Captain Jack. Like
their game 2 lineup is like just my favorite. I think it's the best to have right now, as long as Chaser plays well in his games, which he did that game. I think they just as a team failed to execute their win conditions and actually win the game at some point, and they just like let it drag out until something got so big and got so much farm that he was able to just be a beast in split push and win the fights on his own because he picked off people, which was why I didn't like. I don't think Longzhu deserved to win that game, but you saw such a clear disparity between game 1 and 2 just from and I expected the 4-man swap after game 1 because like nobody except Flame looked anywhere good in game 1, and game 2 was way better. I think Chaser and Coco have developed a pretty good synergy, and they're looking pretty good together. So
Yeah.
This lineup is definitely my favorite.
This is their actual super team lineup in the sense that this is the one where you understand where all the money went to. The other one, you're like, well, that's the same line. IM could have filled that lineup last year if they wanted to, like. So.
Yeah, the first game was pretty surprising, but pretty much I like the joke that Score is like, oh, after I got the first kill, Gragas told me I was gonna win.
Like score is back in a big way as well. He's had series where he's like kind of languished a little bit. I would say that like he has kind of managed to turn it up. Like whatever slump he was in, he's managed to get out of it. Like it wasn't that bad of a slump. He was still a pretty good jungler, but now he's looking like a monster again. You know what I mean? Like he's definitely looking really good again.
I think that like KT still has some issues with consistency though. Like one series he looked great and then Score looks great. It seems a lot has to do in Score, but like it's not like only him because sometimes just a Fly not showing up or someday just playing really bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want a more consistent form of KT, and then you know they're like a top 2 team. But I mean, if SKT actually if they win their next 2 games are tied with KT, so it's not like they are definitive right now, even the 3rd place team in Korea. So it's like they can be good. You see the peaks, but then you also see them like completely get demolished by Jin Air, who is a better team, but still.
I think the consistency that you said lies with once Score kind of falters, you see the rest really falter. Fly and Someday seem to almost completely depend upon Score's presence, and then we have Hachani.
If Score plays good, like the rest of the team also plays good, but like there seems to be no backup if Score doesn't do the most things early game, which is an issue. And then you still have Arrow and Hachani. They're there. And I mean, why the fuck are all these Vaynes? Like you see 2 Vaynes and their 3rd item is armor penetration. The whole point about playing Vayne is that you don't have to build armor penetration because you have % true damage, and a lot because it got changed, so you have more true damage versus tanks now than you even had before. So I don't get these armor penetration builds. They bug me the fuck out. Just build attack speed or crit. It's so much better. Sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, it really seems to kind of be the core of KT really relies on Score, which can be a good and bad thing.
Yeah.
Anything else about this series?
No. Game 2% long.
So then we have the infamous Samsung Rox 2-1, where Samsung beat the Rox Tigers and gave them their first match loss.
I wanna say how I do think Rox is like so good is because the way they know how to bait Baron is like unreal. Like in both game 1 and 2, you can see how effectively they constantly bait Baron, and don't think you can just pretty much guarantee they're not actually gonna do it. They're just waiting to kill you. Like they're just luring you in, and then they turn around. They actually start the Baron every time pretty much, but they're always there to chase up, to pick up kills, and they almost came back in that game too. And if they hadn't like kept going for that Baron, it's like at some point you just should say like, all right, we got a lot of gold here. We should just recall and not start Baron for the 3rd time and then die because they grouped up and then they were cocky and ambition punished them there.
Yeah, I will say the other thing as well when I watched this series was like it was a really bad series from Gorilla. That was the main thing I noticed. Like that wasn't really talked about or kind of highlighted by anyone else was like I didn't think Gorilla didn't play well in this series. Like he didn't really make any big plays or kind of, save the team or like, when you think about Gorilla there were games last year that was solely won off the fact that Gorilla was, bodying everyone. Like in this series, I don't think Gorilla showed up at all. Like, so I think like Smeb had a bad game 3. He looked all right in game 2 and game 1. I mean, he looked good in game 1 and then all right in game 2, but he had a bad game 3. But I think that Gorilla as well kind of let the side down by him. Like, I don't think there was really any issues with Peanuts Gragas. Like, I just think Peanuts Gragas was pretty good overall. Even though it's definitely not his style of jungler, but like he landed some good ultimates and he looked very mechanically sound on the champion. It's just that you can't make as many plays with Gragas as you can with Nidalee. Like, so he's
a lot more ult dependent for those two, where Nidalee can kind of jump around and make plays where for Gragas to really be splashy, you either have to really have someone be out of position first, so you can kind of body slam into them, or you need to be able to create that out of position with the ult. So
there was never a moment where I saw Peanut do something and I was like, why would you do that, Peanut? Like, you're not playing Nidalee right now, you're playing Gragas. Like, he did seem to understand that he was playing Gragas and not Nidalee, and did seem to shift his playstyle enough for that. The issue I had was I don't think Gorilla did anything really in this series.
I think the second game was the worst one. Worst performance by him.
I don't even think in game 1 he did anything realistically. And then Prey on Jin as well. Okay, so throughout Prey's career, okay, so we're thinking with like the Praven originally and the Prey on Lucian as well. When a new AD carry comes out, Prey tries to play it. He does not look good on it. He looks all right on it, but it's like the team doesn't seem to understand how to play around or like.
Yeah, they don't.
Like I think Prey takes a little bit of time to get used to a new champion in competitive play. And in this series, he played Varus, which I don't think I've ever seen him. Maybe very early season 3.
Yeah, I mean,
but
I have issues.
This is again where you see them going a bit cheeky with the pick and bans. They tried to like get the one counter position they wanted instead of just throwing in the mid lane Varus versus.
Yeah, and Kuro's a great mid lane Varus as well. So
and just playing the weaker lane matchup, it seemed like they were trying to be cheeky, and this is again where we kind of saw laziness between their pick and ban in both SBENU and this, then kind of going into the series.
Yeah, so like I think the only player that really kind of performed at the level that I would expect him to perform at was Peter. I think that everyone else kind of had a bit of a weird fall off.
You say that?
I think Smeb had a bit of a fall off only because he kind of got targeted and he had so much pressure put onto him.
Game 2, it wasn't really his fault. He just got ambition just.
He was just the only thing. He was the only thing going for the team. Was if he died, they lost.
Yeah, I mean their comp in game 3 wasn't good at all. But like what I'm saying,
I don't even want to look at game 3.
Yeah, what I'm saying is I just read a lot of criticism for Peanut after the series, and I was like, I actually think he's the one that deserves the least amount of criticism, really. Like, it wasn't him playing Gragas that cost him that series. It was, Gorilla not showing up at all. Prey, and then Prey's kind of weird issue which is an historic issue with him, where he looks individually okay on the new AD carry, but it's like he doesn't understand how to play it in competitive, and it's like the team doesn't understand how to play around him as well. Like his Draven mechanics when he originally released the mythical Praven, his Draven mechanics weren't that bad. It was the issue of he didn't seem to understand how to team fight with the champion. It wasn't like his laning or his dueling with the Draven that was the problem. And it was like the same with the Jin as well. And then Smeb kind of whatever in his game 3 looked alright in game 1 and 2. And then Kuro was so I would just say that Peanut probably is the player that for me deserves the least criticism.
Yeah, honestly, I'll jump in. It seems like Kuro and Prey both had very similar issues. Game 3 specifically, where they both played 2 champions that they're not really, one, that Prey is new on, and 2, that Kuro isn't good playing on. And you kind of see both aspects of it, is that we have seen Prey not be able to really understand how to team fight with the newer champions. And then we have Kuro playing Azir, who he's never been good on Azir.
Yeah, some of Kuro's most spectacular losses have come on Azir.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, stop playing Azir. When Azir was the most broken shit, first ban every time, he was bad on Azir. So don't play Azir now.
They had to ban it. That was one of the main reasons they lost to KT last year in playoffs. Yeah, because they couldn't fucking play Azir.
Yeah,
Nage wasn't good on Azir, but he could play it.
He was a smart Azir. He wasn't good on Azir. He was smart with Azir. And the other issue, it's like if Raidover was playing Lee Sin now or something like that. You've never been good on the champions. So don't bring it out now. It's not even close to a meta pick now.
I mean, Kuro. I mean, we all know Kuro and Prey in a sense as well are the weakest links in Rox, mechanically speaking.
Yeah.
But Kuro this week only showed up on LeBlanc, which was then also mainly because he also got a lot of camping, and when he got to play in pretty good counter matchups. All right, not versus Victor, but Crown got camped like Fox. So, Kuro only had good lane matchups against both Edge and Crown when he got to play LeBlanc, which was.
I do think that they probably would have done better in game 2 if they'd given Kuro the losing matchup in the Varus and put Prey on a champion he could actually do well in the lane on, because obviously the Varus doesn't work as an actual AD carry pick, I don't think.
But again, then you're lacking a lot of magic damage. But yeah, that's how they're gonna fuck themselves up in the draft.
Yeah. I will say this. I don't actually think that Tigers lost to Samsung actually means a lot, and I don't think it means like that they're like.
You mean Ambition isn't the greatest jungler in the world?
Okay, that meme aside, like I did see people like, oh yeah, so this is like when the Tigers fell off this time last year and that kind of thing. I don't think this is the same because, like, I don't think it's like a case of like them struggling to adapt to the new champion pools or anything like that. I just think this is just like SKT lost a series like last year, middle of the season to CJ Entus. Nothing came of it. Like CJ Entus
still dog shit.
Still dog shit, and SKT still went on and won Worlds with an almost like with an 85% with a 90% win rate or something.
No,
there's one game. So what I'm saying is,
same thing we saw with Jin Air. Jin Air won a surprising couple series with Gangplank, and then they got it banned out, and they flopped.
No, I don't think it's the same as that, because Jin Air looked like a good team in that gauntlet, so I don't even think that's necessarily the same thing. I just think that this series actually means nothing.
Yeah, we don't have a playoff.
Yeah, but the series means nothing in the context of what it is. Like, it's just an upset. Like, you don't have to read everything into what single best of three.
It was really just Ambition played way above his level. Like, he played at he played very well in 2 games on the same champion.
No, different champions.
They were both Graves.
He played Graves and then Kindred.
Kindred. Yeah, sorry.
I also thought he played Graves twice.
But I mean, he played. Oh yeah, the Kindred game. I forgot. He really fucking
good.
took over.
Well, game 3, like they're fucking big banners.
That game 3 was pretty garbage. But he was just 2 games he played. He played very well, and he played way above his level of play. I mean, even if you watch game 1 and then rewatch game 2 and game 3, he didn't really have like you can see the regular Ambition, and then you can see Ambition playing way above his level, playing really great. And just because you can get to the peak once doesn't mean it's going to be what you always play at, which is constantly an issue.
I mean, that's why it's called a peak. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, because it's it's like
but people always assume, if they could only play yes, if only.
Yeah, but I mean that's because
even with SBENU, if SBENU can play at that level
all the time,
get a couple games.
Like, well, how many times did we say that about Najin last year? Like, if Najin can play at the level that they did, never happened, did it for me?
Not me.
So
they had Gungan watch.
Samsung, I knew with watching Gungan there was a hope.
Samsung saved their season with this win, because otherwise they would have gone 0-2.
Yes.
They would have fallen real far in the standing.
They also
they saved their standings big time with this one.
Like, and again, so to give you some historical context, Ambition says in the starting interview he only wants to lose 4 best-of-3 series this year. So he planned on right from the start to losing to SKT and Tigers in the spring split. So they'd already lost to CJ Entus. So that Samsung players go into the mindset of this game of like, well, who cares if we lose? Like, we've already had our shit loss of the week. Just play however you want to play. Samsung players play really well. Probably the best League of Legends we've seen the Samsung team play this entire time. Tigers, again, it doesn't matter for Tigers if they win or lose a series, because they're almost a lock for _1. You know what I mean? They would have to lose like every other series for Jin Air to pass them at this point. So I don't think this. If you want to see, if you're thinking this is going to be the historical moment where you see the fall of Rox Tigers, it's not going to happen. I'll go on a limb and say that it's not going to happen. Like, there was Rox Tigers.
Surprising.
But it's exactly that. It's just an upset. Like, an upset can just be an upset and be totally pointless at the end of it. Like, that's
people can say, you all said 2-0 for Rox Tigers, but when you're coming into this week from last week, you didn't see even the SBENU game. You didn't see anything. You got to walk into that going, what evidence do I have
if you see game 1, you're
see
like,
them winning? Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, they'll do 2 of this, but then game 2 they started, and then
outside of just saying, I'm a Samsung fan, or I'm a fan of one of their players, so I want them to win, and then saying I think they're gonna win. That's not great reasoning. Like, I can't think of a possible reasoning walking into this series going,
that's how Sam
course
plays his
Samsung
football
could
games. It's like, I want Tottenham
Yeah.
to win, so they're gonna win.
Yeah. Well, that's how
Well,
one predicts their favorite team.
throwing it back 2 weeks ago when Sam predicted Ever to beat TSM. He didn't predict them to win. He put some money on a really good bet that he had a chance of paying out much higher. But he was like, "No, I think TSM's gonna win," and then they lost. And Ever won. He got his money and he got his bet. Like he was betting against what he thought, even though he was still like he still wanted them to win. He still thought, "Hey, I like Ever better than TSM." But
he used the money for some designer clothes, by the way. Anyone who was interested, bought some nice shirts.
I did expect you to do that.
I didn't know if it was shirts or anything. I just assumed it was clothing, some sort of article. But yeah, it was very, very surprising. And because on Saturdays I go to the gym right after it was over, and I was like, "Huh, I'm gonna have to watch another fucking game. Like I'm gonna be late."
Yeah.
So it was very weird to see that happen.
But I do. There had to be a loss for Rox at some point. Like when you think about how long the season is, like it's actually almost impossible. Like this isn't like Fnatic going 18-0. This is like this is 18 best of 3. No, this is 19.
No, 18.
18 best of 3 matches. So we're talking like,
they've already played 28 games.
Yeah. So like they had to at some point lose 2 games in a row. Now
they've only played 3 sets, so they still have
6.
Yeah, I'd say 6 more teams to play. So there's a potential that they could play 24 more games.
So what I'm saying is like it just doesn't mean it just doesn't mean anything for me that Tigers have lost this. They're still for me out and out favourites to win this split. They're
still locked in at number 1.
Yeah.
Even with watching what Jin Air did this week, and we're able to really kind of change how they played game to game. They changed their play style. They won. They convincingly closed games early. I still don't see this loss pushing them above Rox. I still would say Rox is like number 1, super high up. Then you have Jin Air, and then you kind of have the rest of the group that are kind of. I would say you could argue how far below they are of Jin Air, but I would say the rest are kind of fighting it out.
Well, we saw Rox play Jin Air 3 weeks ago. Rox fucking caved the red in, like the one that was like the worst Jin Air losses ever. Like they just got crushed immediately. Like I was like, oh, this is the number 1 and number 2 team in Korea. Unlucky. So yeah, like I mean, Gorilla's not going to play as bad as he did in that series every single game. They're not going to mess around with Varash AD carry and Kuro Azir every single game. Like,
hopefully it's a wake-up call to get their pick and ban back in line, because that was the biggest issue I saw. They just didn't seem to give a fuck.
Yeah, I mean,
most of the game.
It absolutely will be. I mean, next week, Tigers play just against SKT, for example. Like, they're not going to, that's a series they absolutely want to win, because SKT is their big bogey team, spent the entire last year beating them. So they don't want to go into that series like this is the point last year when SKT beat them. So they don't want to go into the series going, oh yeah, we'll just quite happily lose to SKT. Like we're going in all guns blazing, and they've got the advantage over SKT because SKT have to play Jin Air as well. So they have to prep for Jin Air, and then they have to prep for Tigers. Like that's the fucking roughest week ever. So,
well, we can jump into that. Before we jump into looking into next week though, I just had a few mini annoying things that I had to like yell about. Okay. Was that we saw this even in the Rox Tigers game was fighting Baron when you're standing behind him. Like you can't have more people standing behind Baron when you're at low health than when you're trying to take it. Even if you're trying to bait, the amount of damage it does is significantly more because it's undodgeable AoE, and it just is absolutely insane that the teams regularly will be
if you're standing in front
fighting Baron from behind it.
If you're standing in front, you only get the primary target gets hit by these auto attacks, and then you get some debuff damage from like the AoE corrosive thing, which reduces your magic resist. But that's it. If you're standing at the back, you constantly get hit by the spikes, which deal an insane amount of damage, considering you already have your magic resist.
Anytime you see a player die to Baron, it's often because they're standing at the back of the pit rather than at the front. But.
Yeah, the pit or their weak member getting.
You have fucking again. This is something that is has, I would say, plagued Koreans forever, is fucking recalling in the most absolute ridiculous positions. And you saw this, was it KTLZ? I think it was one of the KT series. They recalled on a ward that they couldn't see because the pink ward was like, this is the red buff. You had the red buff. You had the bush there. They had the pink ward and the green ward could still see them but the pink couldn't see that. It was just like absolutely mind-boggling. You know they're right there. How much of an advantage are you getting by just walking a little bit further away from them?
It's just I always just put it down to the players, like their drive to be like crazy efficient, so their drive to just recall as quickly as possible. Realistically, like,
the fuck was that?
I don't know what that was.
Gorilla just tried to recall.
I'll explore that in a second.
It sounded like a champagne bottle or something, like a cork just.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I'll just look into that in a minute. But
even at that, like, there seems to be almost an obsessive, like, a ridiculous level of trying to min-max and be a super efficient there, when in reality they need to just like move one bush away. That's all I need to do. We were saying we can just move right into predicting week 10.
Okay.
Gonna be a rough week for CJ, or it's not CJ, SKT.
Yeah, SKT.
And actually, it's a rough week for CJ too. So first we have Wednesday's games, SKT versus Jin Air. What do you guys think? This should be a really good set.
If SKT still has nothing else up in their sleeve than playing Little Mates, I don't see them win at all.
Yeah, I think this is.
Maybe Koma is just a genius and has just playing Little Mid the whole time, and he has like amazing comm strategy to destroy the top teams in Korea. But you know,
Faker looks so frustrated when he plays Little Mid as well. He does not look happy when he's playing that champion. Like, he doesn't look like he's enjoying life right now.
Yeah, he does look contemplate. Yeah.
So yeah, 2-0 for Jin Air. I'll put. I don't see SKT winning a game.
Yeah, I actually have to agree.
Jin Air is so good right now, and SKT
the only
are so
way
good.
I could argue the win is if the bottom lane for SKT can beat out Pilot. If Bang can really bully out Pilot, you might see something happen.
But I don't think Bang's a particularly lane dominant ADC, so
he did pretty well with Sang, but
it really depends against Sangyun though. It really depends on his champion pick. If they put him on a super late game scaler, I don't think so. If he can get Lucian, I think he might be able to bully out. He's shown that before.
The problem is
I think that's the.
Yep. I mean, if they win, like they don't seem like they want him to carry, but even if he wins lane, they don't seem to like. Yeah, let's do something with the fact that he's winning lane now. It's weird.
I mean, that's the only way I could conceivably seeing them win is if SKT's bot lane can really out measure.
Yeah,
I think Kuzan will just play like a bitch.
This is also the rematch of the first loss of SKT. SKT, because last time Jin Air won 2-0. Now, granted, we put down their first loss because SKT played Blank and Scout. But so now they'll exclusively use Blank. If you think back, this is one of the biggest matches so far of the split in terms of like where the storyline and where it's taken us to this point. So it would be now it's funny to think that the tables are turned and now it would be an upset for SKT to win, but
I'm still confused. SKT is the one team I still have issues placing just because they don't aren't showing any diversity. Yeah, they don't. Either they don't have it or they haven't shown it yet. So.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, as for me, 2-0 to Jin Air, no problem.
Yeah, I will actually agree.
See, I could see that. I can agree with that too. I
definitely think Jin Air's going to win.
I think the only way they can really win one game is if the bot lane really goes nuts.
The other reason I don't want to predict a 2-1 as well, if I predicted a 2-1 like for this, that would be the ultimate kind of like pussyfoot 2-1, like because I'm like, oh well, they're both good teams, so it must be a 2-1 kind of thing. Like ultimately, it'll be a 2-0, I would say.
No, I think there's a really great chance of being 2-0 for Jin Air. I just think that if we do see a game win from SKT, I think it's going to be the bot lane. Afreeca Kongdu.
2-1 to Afreeca. Yeah,
I actually don't care. But 2-1. I would say 2-1 Afreeca or something.
So we have Thursday's games. We have Longzhu CJ, which should be a pretty good series. And again, it's going to be, I would say, a very difficult one to call.
Yeah, it's hard to call because first of all, you don't know what Longzhu is going to play. But just because the fact how they lost their second game versus KD, I actually think CJ will win.
Yeah, I would go 2-1 to CJ
because
as well.
CJ will just unless Longzhu can brute force them early and then win quick. I just think CJ will just outplay them in team fights, and Longzhu doesn't seem to have a good way to close out and win games, and CJ knows how to win games just by team fighting better than their opponents.
See, I would say the 2-1 for CJ,
Yeah.
because I think Longzhu has enough strength that they will probably be able to get a game.
Mm.
But if we've seen before, even this past week, LZ, Longzhu let KT back into that game. And if they do that against CJ too, CJ is going to have enough time to get back in the game to the point where they can team fight. And they're really good at team fighting.
Longzhu's win condition comes from, can their jungler, whether that be Crash or Chaser, abuse bubbling to the point where they can get a substantial enough goal deficit to make up for the fact that CJ do have superior team fighting. So if CJ can go into that team fight with even even close to equal footing, then Longzhu can't win the match. So Longzhu should realistically play to avoid team fights, try and play some kind of a siege comp or something, and hope Chaser can get massively ahead in the early game.
Push.
Yeah, split push or 1-3-1.
The issue with the split push with Flame is that will he be able to split push early enough?
I mean, who knows? That's speculation on speculation. I think at that point, I would just say that if I was Longzhu, I would go into that game with the plan of let's split push, not team fight, and try and get ahead in the early game. Because if they go into it going, we'll just try and out team fight, they'll lose straight up.
Yep.
So I would say 2-1 to CJ Entus.
Mm-hmm. And then, oh wow! So this whole week is we get one good game, one bad game, and then we got SBENU KT.
Yeah, KT is going to win.
Yeah, KT 2-0.
KT better win that too.
Yeah, I mean, they need some consistency that they definitely have to win that.
Friday's good game. Another interesting game. SKT Rox.
Mm-hmm.
Will SKT go 0-2 this week?
Yes.
Very likely. Unless Coleman is genius.
Yeah,
he has shown on many occasions
it needs to be like that moment in in The Hangover where the guy with the beard, all the calculations appear in front of his head, and he realizes that's what needs to happen for Coma in order, because he's got I actually don't think SKT have anything up their sleeve. I actually would put that out there. I actually don't think there's they've got anything else other than these Lulu mid protect the bang compositions. I think Faker will probably be stuck on Lulu or Lissandra this entire split, and that'll be donezo. So.
Well, I mean, even then, I don't think they can beat Rox at all. So.
No, and
I also think the big issue with that, like you said, is that they've tried to integrate Duke in, and you could see the struggles with that. And now they're trying to integrate Blank in, and Blank isn't the same caliber player as Duke. Where with Duke, for the first few weeks, they kind of just threw him to the wolves, and it worked a little bit. It didn't work sometimes, and now they finally try to get him in with the team. And now that they've replaced Bangi, moved Blank in for Bangi, they now have a much weaker player at that position. Even if Bangi wasn't the greatest, he kind of intuitively would know. I mean, he's played with Faker for 3 years. He knows how they're what the flow of the game's going to be whether they're winning or losing.
Yeah,
now you have to adapt with Blank. So,
I think the other issue as well just comes down to I think Rox will want. I think this is a series that Rox will absolutely want to win, because this is for them a big grudge match because they got denied at the World Championships by SKT. They lost to SKT 4 out of the 5 series they played against them last year. I actually think the series will be less close, will be more one-sided, than the series they last played against each other, where SKT managed to eke out a game victory due to insane late-game team fighting. I don't even think they'll have that option in this game anymore because, I mean, back then they were playing Lulu fucking Ezreal comps. That's all they've played so far is Lulu Ezreal. Heaven forbid one of them gets fucking disabled.
When we, in the beginning of the
all
season...
All they've done is played Protect Bang pretty much the entire year.
Yeah. It's true. So, yeah. Because I definitely don't think they have anything up their sleeve just because they just seem to go oh yeah, we were pretty bad. So we go to IM, play the same shit. Alright, we win. We come back here, we're still playing the same shit.
Yeah.
And we're still pretty bad actually. There was no wake up call, I think, but there should have been. But.
Then we have our second Who Gives a Shit series of Samsung versus Afreeca.
I mean, it's
Oh, is there a common denominator here? Is it perhaps Afreeca?
it's Afreeca or Congo or whatever.
So,
It's the bottom 3 teams are just.
Who cares? Samsung's probably should 2-0.
I mean, maybe Afreeca
Yes,
wins.
I would say Samsung 2-0 this series.
Yeah,
But
they
I mean, it's
should.
really hard to really say anything outside of like they should 2-0 against these
They
lower
should
teams.
do it.
it's a week
Oh,
of 2-0s, except for the CJ Longzhu where it's 2-1.
Yep.
Amazing.
And now we have Kongdu SBENU.
2-1.
I think we might disagree here. I say 2-0 SBENU.
2-0 spelling 2-1 Kongdu.
Come on, SBENU.
They're both so bad.
Shake those shoes. Shake those shoes.
You've lost Lord Bets to me before.
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah, 2-1 to Kongdu.
I think Gone is still a bit better. So yeah. I mean, they
I just
actually
wanna
won
see-
series. Yeah, so
I just want to see SBENU win a series. I think that's kind of sad.
Never gonna happen.
I actually don't.
And then we have a final game, which should be very, very interesting, I would think.
I think this is my most.
CJ Jin Air.
I think this is my most interesting. Well, I don't think CJ is ready yet.
I don't think they are either, but it'll be very interesting.
No, but this might actually be the most interesting series of the week, though. Just because how good they could
I
show
don't know.
themselves.
There's 4 really good, like there's 4
Yeah.
potentially very good games. The issue being is whether or not SKT shows up,
Yeah, then it goes down to 2 if they look shit. doesn't
And those
it?
are
and
both
then you
CJ
have to
games.
deal with
Yeah.
whether or not you're going to get the right players in the Longzhu
So-
game. So,
so what
it
we're
goes
saying-
back down to 1.
So what we're saying is CJ is the most exciting team in Korea, and we're all CJ fans.
We're not fans, but it's
Fuck
interesting to
CJ.
see them battle versus like the new thing. Because I mean, second round robin, they're 3-0 right now. They started pretty rough their first week, but the second week it's a lot better now. Versus,
This is their biggest test week, though. Really,
and yeah,
like,
this week is just like they could definitely 1-1. Yeah, I don't see them beat Jin Air, but they could definitely show a good game versus Jin Air, a good match. So
I'm gonna say 2-0 to Jin Air.
I'm going to say 1-2 or 2-1 Jin Air.
no, I'm also saying
I was looking
2-0,
at
but I at least hope to see one good game. I mean, a close game from CJ.
And is he for the weeks?
I mean, it would be like CJ has the advantage that Jin Air is like mostly like their weakest link is the bot lane, and CJ's best strength is the bot lane, so they could maybe like get a game off.
on Kramer and Godlight.
Just being the bot lane just outplaying and being way more effective.
The other problem with that one though is Winged is one of the better performers for Jin Air, and
Yeah, bot
It
lane.
is.
Yeah.
so
Maybe Daydream comes and saves it. No, just kidding.
yeah, that's the point. When are CJ gonna play Daydream?
No clue. You should be allowed to
You're-
play, but
In your dreams.
um,
Oh,
because
kill me now.
he's been eligible to play since the start of the second round robin, so he should be. You know, you'd expect to see him in a game. Maybe they they didn't play him when they had the trash teams, did they? So
yeah, no, it's
maybe they signed him and then Reach found out that like Daydream had sex with his daughter or something, and that's why they're never actually playing him.
I don't know. I mean, we can't.
Yeah, not going to go into those crazy conspiracy theories. Anything else for this past week?
No.
Kind of a boring week.
Well, I don't think it was that boring. There were good series,
There were some good series and there were some disappointments.
but I think in general, what I briefly want to talk about, it's like it really shows right now. I think we have Rox #1 clearly, Jin Air #2, and then you have KT if they're consistent enough remain #3. Longzhu is actually one of the worst right now.
Of the top
You
teams,
could-
yeah.
Of the top
You could
teams.
say the same about CJ, Samsung, and SKT though. I think they all have significant issues. I think KT probably is #3 because their real issue is just kind of a bit of consistency.
Oh yeah, but that's my point. I think they're clear, but I think SKT, I just don't know. They could still be good, but like next week is gonna show how good they are. If they can even compete. But I think CJ is like they're still climbing, while I don't see Samsung improving at all. Like seeing that I don't see them breaking into top 3 at all. While I could see CJ maybe make a good showing in the playoffs. They have a good record right now, sitting 4th, so it's very likely you actually see CJ in the playoffs. And it might become more difficult for teams like CT or Longzhu to actually get there.
That's the point, actually. If I was to make like overall playoff predictions at this point, I would say that your 5 playoff teams would be Tigers, Jin Air, KT, CJ, and SKT. I would say.
Yes, I just think it's too hard to rule out SKT.
Yeah,
and I think CJ's. I mean, if they have a good week next week, I'm pretty sure that they can they'll be set for playoffs.
Which is amazing for CJ, but yeah.
Yes, but it was pretty big that they had those first struggle wins just before BDD came in, and we saw that the bot lane could really carry it, and now we can see that actual team, what we already said before.
Yeah, this is pretty much like CJ's final form as well now, that kind of thing. Like,
if they get a good jungler, that would.
Oh yeah, but I mean, this is their final form for this year, for this split at least. Like,
probably yes.
I mean, there's no reason to think they can't get a better jungler for summer, for example, because they'll be a more desirable team to join. So maybe some jungler who can't find himself a team, like, you know, or is stuck in the LSPL, like, or, you know, on a team like Wanyu might join CJ Entus. But until then, this is their final form of spring split, basically, is the roster they are using. Because there's really no reason why they would use Ghost over Kramer at this point because of how well Kramer's been performing. Like, this would be like, you know, SKT using Scout over Faker, which they did. So who knows? But
yeah, but SKT always does stupid stuff with her.
When Ghost, I think Ghost is of age as of next week's games.
Yes, I think so too.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Ghost got like a game here or there, but I just don't see him becoming a regular starter over Kramer kind of thing. Like, even if their original plan was to make Ghost the regular starter, I don't see that coming to fruition now, as it were. So
March 18, so yeah, this week.
Yeah, so next week in 5 days. So yep.
I just hope that they continue to play around Kramer, and that they leave BDD to kind of mature through the rest of the split.
Yeah, BDD.
I'd say they'll do that.
BDD and Antara regularly switch between which one of them is going to be the secondary threat and which one's going to be the backup threat, as it were, like the sort of supporting carry. So they kind of flip it between the two of them, which kind of works in a sense because it means that if one of them gets pressured, the other one can step up and support Kramer. It's really just a case of like, I mean, they are a very much live and die by Kramer, but then they funnel so much gold into him. Like,
so much.
Like, there's a bunch of stats, like, Kramer does like 33% of CJ's total damage or something like that, which is insane.
More.
Yeah, like he does over a third of their total damage or something, which is fucking insane. Like that's.
They do have bubbling.
Like, I'm pretty sure his damage percentage is the highest of the entire of the entire LCK region. Like how much percentage he does damage.
But when you factor in the amount of gold he gets,
he's the biggest
batter.
Yeah.
Like if he didn't have that high amount of damage, you'd be like, how are you still allowed to play this game?
Well, that was cool last year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying, like,
all the gold and you do nothing with it.
You can't criticize a player if he takes loads of gold, but he fucking does loads of damage and carries. You got, that's not actually a point of his, is it? Like, there's no actual reason to believe that Kramer couldn't play a low economy style. It's just that this is working, so keep doing it. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No reason why he should really even change at all. I mean, they're playing very well, and I hope they don't try and go back to BDD centric comps just yet. I don't think he's ready for it just yet.
They played James. The fuck when they did it. Spoke Quinn.
Yeah, they played Quinn at one point and the game for back of them. I think that's about the end of the show then.
Yes, yes, we're done.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for watching, everyone.
Yeah,
enjoy.
See you guys next week. Enjoy CJ next week. Watch them. Appreciate the Mad Life return.
In the meantime, oh no, the show will be out before LCS, so I can't make a pun about that. So just enjoy the rest of the show. Bye bye.